Have you been asked to provide a cover letter? I'm Lucy and I'm a career counsellor, and today in this video we're going to go through how you can learn how to write a cover letter so that you've got one if you need to submit it for a job application to go along with your resume, for example. So for this session we're going to be using a template, a cover letter template. It's in a Word document, and I've got to be honest, I find that sticking to Word for things like cover letters is just the best way to go. It's really simple, it's really clear. You can always export it into a PDF, and it's super easy to edit in the future because the chances are that you're going to need this cover letter time and time again in different formats for different companies. So if you keep it in Word, much easier to edit, much quicker to edit, kind of much more foolproof as well. Like it's very hard to stuff up a Word document. So, or Google Docs if that's what you prefer. But in either case, I'm going to show you with a Word document. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what a cover letter should look like for someone who is applying for a really early entry-level kind of position. So maybe your first job after high school, or it could even be a job while you're still at high school. Most of the time, these jobs don't actually require you to have a cover letter. It's actually a little bit unusual for them to ask for a cover letter, but sometimes people do, and they do that for lots of different reasons. Maybe they're just trying to literally cull the number of applicants, because they know that if they put an extra hurdle in there, if they ask you for an extra document, then less people are going to actually bother to do that. So they can instantly either exclude people who haven't bothered with a cover letter, or they'll just have less people apply in the first place. So that's one reason why you might be asked to write one. It could be that you're applying for a job with a small local employer and they don't use any of the fancy online job search providers or job description providers. So they've literally just put a sign in the window that says, "Hi, we've got these jobs on offer. To apply, send your resume and your cover letter to this email address." And that might be another reason why you might be asked to write a cover letter. In any case, if you have been asked to write a cover letter, there are some tricks and tips for you to follow, which are going to make the process much easier for you and you're going to hopefully avoid making any kind of critical errors. The best way to start with our cover letter is we're going to be using the same information that we used for the resume video before. So if you did watch that resume video, you're going to be finding that it's the same person with the same kind of details for the same kind of role. So if you are applying for something similar, maybe use the two together. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually follow this format and change over our name. So we're going to talk about Jordan Taylor. That's not my name, that's a fictional name. But we're going to change the name to be your name. And we're going to put in here Jordan's email address as well. And you're really going to want to check that this is definitely the correct email address for you. And you'd also want to be changing over the hot link here. Edit and paste. Okay, because they will be using that email address most likely to get in touch with you if you have been invited for an interview. So you really want to make sure that that particular email address is correct. You haven't put any typos in there. And you would be absolutely blown away by the number of times that I see people with typos in their own email address. It is very, very, very common. So something to think about right at the start of your cover letter. The good news is that once you've written this section, you don't need to write it again. So you only need to write this in once, South State Land, because then this is going to be the same. Unless you move, in which case change the details or update your phone number if you need to. But in general, this cover letter information right at the top here is going to remain the same. We're also putting in our location. So I've put in here that I'm in Kareeva, which is a made-up place, from South State Land. I'm going to want to put in my location into the top of this cover letter, just like I did into my resume, because it just lets the employer know where I'm located. So if they're thinking about, okay, is this person going to be close enough to do this job, or is this person a local, or any of those other questions, you've got that information in there. If you're not a local and you're applying for a job, you know that what you've put in that location section might be a bit of a red flag for an employer, it's totally okay for you to then justify that in your cover letter. Right now, I'm located in here. I'm planning to relocate to the place where your job is located next month. I will be there by this date. So it just gives you that opportunity to just raise that point right now and let them know exactly where you are. The next thing we want to do in our cover letter is we want to put in today's date. So we are going to just change that. And the next thing we're going to put in is the contact details for the person who you are writing the cover letter to. Now, sometimes you might not know who you're actually writing to. You might just be told to submit a cover letter in general to a generic careers email address, in which case you could just write hiring manager or recruitment manager here. But if you do know their details, Perhaps you've already had a conversation with them, or you've received an email from them, or their information was put in the job ad or on the wherever you've seen it, then you're going to want to put that information into your cover letter as well. It does a few things. One of the things that it does for me when I do that is that it tells me, okay, this is the exact person that I wrote to for this particular cover letter. So I cannot forget that information. I have their contact details, I have their name, I have their position, and I know that that was correct at the time that I submitted that cover letter. So if I need to go back and get in contact with them again, I have that information there. It also is a really easy way for me to check that I'm sending off the right cover letter to the right person, because in a real quick glance, I can say, okay, right, this is going up to this company. If there's an inconsistency there, and I can't tell manager, if there's an inconsistency there, then you can see, right, this is not going to the right person, and change that. Recruitment manager for a fresh Horizon Markets. And we're going to want to put their email address in here as well. careers@freshhorizon.com. And once again, make sure that address goes to the right person. Otherwise, they're going to be able to see who else you are applying to. Now, if they had a different location to you, I would put in that information in here. So perhaps they're not in Careerville, perhaps they're in Jobtown. Oh, that's convenient. Jobtown in South Stateland. And you could put that information in there. If they're in the same place as you, I don't know if I would bother. It might be handy. Or if they've only got one location, you might not want to put that in there as well. That's kind of up to you. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually move into the salutation for the cover letter itself. And generally, I keep things as safe as possible, and I start with dear and then their first name, so we know that it is Sam. Now, other people will have other opinions on this. There is no rule book. There is no universal rule for writing salutations for cover letters, just like there's no rule book for actually writing the cover letter in the first place. It is your document, and you can personalize it however you like. The thing that we are doing with this template and trying to keep things as simple as possible is we're trying to reduce any risk that an employer would disregard you because of something that you've done or written in your cover letter. So in the same way that we always want to make sure that our spelling and our grammar has been checked before we send anything off, and that we haven't made any little mistakes there, we're also wanting to keep things as neutral and as safe as possible with things like the terms that we use. So instead of using dear, in theory, I could have put, hey, Sam, or I could have put, hi, Sam, or I could have put, to whom it may concern, or any of those different salutations. I don't need to actually put dear in there at all. I could just write Sam, comma. But what I'm trying to do with dear is I'm trying to be as safe as possible. I know that that's kind of the generic standard is dear and then their first name. So it makes it less likely that I'm going to get it wrong. By the same token, unless you have been asked to address the person, so say a fictional Sam, for example, as Mrs. or Mr., and then their last name, avoid using that at all costs, because there is a chance that you will get it wrong. You will put Mrs. when it's actually Ms., or you will not use the right title, and they're, to be honest with you, a little bit outdated. So unless you've been told exactly what to use and to use that, I would really avoid doing that. And in this case, I don't know how Sam chooses to refer to themselves, so I'm just going to leave that out, and I'm going to put Sam's first name in there, which is as safe as I can possibly make it. And then I'm also going to want to put a reference in my cover letter. Now, it should be self-explanatory, or you would have thought, but chances are that Sam sees a lot of different cover letters. Sees a lot of different cover letters every day. They may see multiple cover letters for the same position every day. And we're just, once again, wanting to make it as easy as possible for Sam to know exactly who has been writing to them and exactly what they're trying to say. So I'm going to put in here reference team member position. Now, I think in the original job description that we looked at last time, we had a team member position for checkouts. So I'm going to put that information in there as well. I'm wanting to reduce any barrier. I'm wanting to make things as easy as possible for the employer to know exactly what I'm doing. And it's also a good sign that you're going to be able to follow instructions. So any additional information you have there about that position, put that in that reference point as well. And also read the job description, because they may have told you to put something specific in your reference. Sometimes employers do things like that. They might ask you to put in a number or something, for example, a position number. If you don't do that, that's a sign to them that you can't read instructions, and they may choose to instantly disregard the rest of your application and not go on to read your cover letter because of that. So that's why we do those things. And then for the first part of your cover letter, a cover letter in itself shouldn't be an epic monologue. It shouldn't be an essay. It shouldn't be multiple pages long. It's really designed to just bring the key information into the one place so that if an employer is reading through this and your resume together, they'll be able to get a really clear picture of who you are, why you want to do the job. It's kind of like a pre-interview almost. So they already know a little bit about you when you do turn up for your interview. They don't want to read this document for the next 2 hours of their life. They want to get through this as quickly as humanly possible because they don't know you. And at this time, they're just wanting to save time for themselves. So we're going to keep things short and sweet. So to be honest, there's not a lot in this cover letter. We've not got a lot of words in this section up here. There's a short introductory statement. And then we're going to use some bullet points to really explain why we think we'd be good for the job. Another sort of statement at the end that sums things up. And then that's it. That's all we wanted to put in there. So don't think that you're going to be having to write, pages and pages of information. So I've already written this out, but I'm going to copy and paste it in. I'm going to show you what I mean next to the statement. So this is the statement that I'm going to use in a second to replace this template section, which I'm now going to italicize so we can see it here. So what we're wanting in this original statement is we're wanting a really short, really clear introductory statement that explains exactly why you think you'd be good for the job and what you want to get out of it. It's really important that you do not copy that statement from the top of your resume, that personal statement from the top of your resume, because they're already going to have read that. So why would you waste the opportunity to say something different in your cover letter? It's also really important. This section makes it really clear that you're applying for this particular job. This is not generic, that you've thought about the role, that you've read the keywords that they've put in the job description. And if you don't know how to read a job description, please go and watch that video as well. And they're going to want to see that you're ticking that box in that you're actually interested in this job. This isn't a generic cover letter that's gone to a million different people because employers don't want to see that sort of thing. So I'm going to delete this here in my template. And I've got my new section that talks. It's my introductory statement for my cover letter. So I've said that I'm excited, which is great. We're going to want to show enthusiasm straight away. It's a job in retail, so we've acknowledged that we're applying for the right job. And then I'm looking to develop my skills in customer service and digital technology. So those are two key things that were in the job description, customer service and digital technology. And we've restated them here so that an employer's ticking little boxes in their head and saying, yep, this person's saying all the right things. I'm saying that I'm going to be motivated, I'm willing to learn, and I'm also looking to build experience in this job that I can then use throughout my career, which is great because they're going to want to see that you can say that, hey, this job that I'm doing right now, I know that I might not be doing it forever, but I do appreciate that I'm going to be learning things here and I'm going to be experiencing the workplace so that I can then take that into other roles later in my life. So an employer loves to see that sort of thing from people who are applying for one of their first jobs. So for the next section, it's really a sort of two-part. We've got this sort of introductory section right at the top, which kind of introduces the fact that, hey, I'm now going to be talking about all the reasons why I think you should hire me, and then I'm going to put them in dot points. And then you've got the dot points themselves. So for my first section, I'm going to say that even though I'm new to the workforce, which is good to acknowledge, it's good to acknowledge that if you are new to the workforce and not pretend like you've been working for years when you haven't. I believe that I would be a good fit, and here's why. So I can delete that. Now, if you are using this Word document template, which you'll be able to find the link to this in the comments, you can write something very, very similar for this section. You could, if you maybe are not new to the workforce, you could say, I'm excited to apply for this role, or I'm excited to expand my skills and knowledge, or I'm excited to take this next step in my career, or something like that. I believe I'd be a good fit. Those are great words to use. You can use different ones if you like, but they're a really good set of words to use because they make it really clear that, hey, I think that I would fit in well for these reasons. And here's why. So then what we're going to do is we're going to some extent, it's like like I said before, it's like a bit of a pre-interview. So what you're actually doing is before you go in for an interview, you're saying, these are the kinds of things that I might say to you if were I to get an interview. You can ask me more questions about these things. I've kind of given you a little bit more detail than was in my resume. But I think that these things prove that I could do the job that you're asking me to do. So for the first statement, we want to outline our relevant experience. So if we haven't had a lot of relevant experience, which makes sense because it's our first job, we're going to say that. I might not have years of experience yet. Straight up off the bat, I'm explaining that I haven't got lots of experience, and that's okay. You can use experience from other jobs, volunteering, helping at school, maybe things you've done at home, all sorts of different other places you can get experience. And we're going to be putting that into this top section. So I might not have years of experience, but I've worked as a volunteer at Yaps and in my school canteen. I've also undertaken work experience recently. And because of these experiences, I now know what it's like to work in a team and to serve customers. So you've made it really clear for the employer that you're going to be able to meet a couple of their key requirements for any new employee because you've worked in a team and you've served customers. You've done it in a few different places, and here's my evidence of that. I can show you, can prove to you that I can do that because I've done that at Yaps, I've done that in my school canteen, and I've also done that in work experience. That information was written in your resume, but it may not have been as clear in your resume. So in doing this, in writing this little short statement, what you've actually done is you've joined the dots for an employee. You've made it incredibly easy for the employer to see exactly how you can meet what they're looking for. So the next section we're going to want to bring in here is something that talks about your core skills. And it's a really good idea if, for this particular cover letter, your core skills very neatly align with the core skills that they're looking for in the job description. And then you can also justify that you actually have those core skills, because there's nothing worse than people standing up and saying, yep, I'm really, really great at this thing, but don't ask me to prove it. Don't ask me to explain how. I'm just going to tell you that I'm really, really good at this thing. So for this cover letter, I've said, I believe I have strong customer service skills. That's one of the things that we know the employer is looking for. They have told us in the job description they are looking for good customer service skills. And I've defined that. I've said I can communicate with different types of people. I can listen, which is a big thing for a lot of employers. They're wanting to know that their employees are going to be able to be patient and listen to other people. And I can help with people solve their problems. And here's some places that I have actually developed those skills. I've done that through my role on the student council and while serving in the school canteen. So it's not just a random statement, yep, I'm good at customer service, but I'm not going to tell you why. I'm good at customer service. And here's some examples of places where I've had to build those skills. So it was also clear from the job description, which, as I said before, you can find in the other video, that the employer is really looking for somebody who is able to handle inventory technology to payment processing systems, that kind of thing. So I've also included a section that says, I feel confident managing technology, including things like payment systems and data entry. And once again, I've been able to do those things in the school canteen. And I'm a quick learner, so I feel like I would be able to handle that technology. Now, it may be that they're going to want to explore whether or not that's true in an interview, but you have at this point checked that box and said, yep, I'm acknowledging that I have good technology skills, but also that I'm willing to learn and I'm going to learn your particular systems. That's something that I'm looking for in employment as well. So you made it even easier for the employer to say, yep, this person has the skills that I need, or if they might not have everything, they're willing to learn. For the next section of our cover letter, we're going to be talking about the things that make you you. So the reasons why you in particular are great for this role. And that could be things like your personal strengths, the things that you're interested in, your interest in the industry in particular, or the fact that you're really keen to learn and that you've got a really positive attitude. Now, these are things that all employers are going to want to see from just about every applicant, but it's nice to kind of point them out. So in this cover letter, I've said that I'm motivated and I'm willing to learn, and I can demonstrate this through my participation in other activities. Here's how I'm aligned to the retail industry. It aligns with my interest in business. And here's an example that proves that I'm actually interested in business. I'm not just saying it. I was selected for a business boot camp. So I've not only said, here's why I want this particular job, and I've justified my application, but then I've also proven to you that I mean what I say, that I'm not just lip service. I'm not just telling you that because I want this particular job. I'm actually justifying what I've said in my cover letter. And then right down the bottom, it can be really great if we can pop something into our cover letter that kind of seals the deal for us. Something that you're really proud of, some sort of key achievement that you've done maybe through schooling or through your community or some sort of sporting activity, something that you're really proud of that relates to this role, and really try and demonstrate or explain how this justifies that you're going to be able to do the job. So In this cover letter, I'm going to say that I'm particularly proud of my time volunteering at YAPS, which is a really lovely thing to have done, to have volunteered for a dog shelter. And I love that I've done that because it means that I can build my skills, including in organisation and time management. And I feel like this team member role would do the same. So I've really brought everything together and once again used an example of something that I've done to justify why this person should hire me in particular for this job. Now, this last little section of the cover letter, so we've got section at the top where we talk about who we are. Then we have our initial statement, our bullet points, which explain why we should be hired. And then right down the bottom here, we've got a short statement that just thanks the employer for their consideration and makes it really clear that you're willing to speak about the role further. So this is sort of something that we expect to see in any cover letter. It doesn't have to be fancy or long or in depth or any of those things. It merely says, I'd love the chance to talk more about how I can bring my enthusiasm and willingness to learn to your team at Fresh Horizon Markets. So once again, restating the company's name, just making it really clear that you're happy to apply for this job and you're really hoping that they call you back. And then we finish off with kind regards, which is, once again, a really nice neutral kind of way of closing off your cover letter. You don't want to be adding anything crazy in there or anything that might have any flags, and then popping in your name right at the bottom. And if you're going to print this off, you might want to leave some space and sign this as well. And that's your cover letter done. Make sure you save it. And make sure if you want to export that cover letter into a PDF document that you can do that as well. If it doesn't all fit on one page, which hopefully we're hoping that your cover letter should be able to fit quite neatly onto one page by the time we're finished. But if it doesn't for some reason or another, you might want to take a step back and have a look at this document and see if there's some way that you can shorten this or if you can make this all fit on one page. You might, for example, want to put these into 2 columns if that's what you need to do. You might need to reduce the spacing a little bit. But my suggestion would be that if you have so much text on this page that you need to run it to 2 pages, the thing is not to give yourself more space on the page. The actual thing is to probably cut out some of your text. So is there anything you've said twice in this document? Is there anything that they maybe don't really need to know at this stage that they could actually probably be talking to you about at an interview? And removing anything that's not completely essential, because you do not want to burden them with a long-winded document that duplicates what you're saying or that isn't easy for them to read and absorb. If I was an employer and I got this cover letter from a young person who was applying for their first job, I would be really happy because it's in a format that I'm really familiar with. It's really clean and easy for me to read. They haven't made any grammatical or spelling errors, or I haven't proofread it yet, so I probably shouldn't say that on camera before I've checked it. But before I did save and print or send it off, I would double check that there were no spelling or grammatical errors in this document. And it would make it really easy for an employer to understand that the young person has done some things and can prove that they could be a capable starter in this job. So I've really made it as easy as possible for an employer to take that next step, check with my references, and then invite me for an interview with this cover letter. So as I said before, the link to go and actually get this cover letter was going to be in the comments as well. So if you would like the Word document template, you can go and get that for yourself. If you haven't already seen the How to Write a Resume video and the How to Read a Job Description video, I would recommend going and watching both of those as well, because they're going to give you some more background and how to do things like identify keywords in the job description that then we're going to need to be able to write a cover letter that talks about core skills that the employer is actually going to want to see and things like that. So I'd recommend going and doing those as well. And my last suggestion would be that when you have finished this cover letter, you're really happy with it, it's great for your first job, you're ready to send it off. Before you do that, please check it with someone else. So please get a friendly adult to read through your cover letter with you, give you some feedback, maybe point out any things you could tighten up or change in that cover letter. And just it'll do one or two things. It'll either point out some things you can improve, or it'll make you feel better about your cover letter and help you feel more confident when you send it off, which is also a really great thing as well. So all the best with writing your cover letters, and I hope you find that helpful.